Viridian, The Green Guide, by Clouds. My Head in the Clouds Not Coming Down. Read by Oakshadow 5. Chapter 9. Parkour. Summary. Did anyone ask for some good old-fashioned Detzawa? Shota had never really understood the appeal of bars. He supposed that Yamada or Shirakumo probably would have dragged him along when they got old enough if they had actually started their own agency like they'd always planned, but... Well, Shota had just thought it was irrational to dull his senses with alcohol and loud music when there was work that needed to be done. Which was what brought him here, overlooking the bar district while parties enjoyed the nightlife. Amplifier had only been out sick for a day or two, but since the last trigger incident had been in her territory, Shota had asked for her permission to stick around and look for any leads. He'd been hanging around for almost 2 weeks and, while he'd managed to find a few small dealers, there hadn't been another major incident. Shota heard Amplifier's voice echoing from a few streets over, and he sighed and started running in that direction. It was probably nothing she couldn't handle, but he may as well lend a hand as long as he didn't have any of his own leads to chase. As he got closer to the fight, however, he almost stopped in shock. He wasn't the only one who had shown up to the fight. Crouching on the rooftop, eyes glued to the fight below, was Viridian. The kid had a small notebook out, and Shota wondered how he could even see what he was writing in the sparse light. It couldn't be good for his eyes. He could see the kid's lips moving as well, so he was probably muttering something, but the words were drowned out by the sound of Amplifier's quirk. The kid had also gotten some gear, apparently, which alleviated some of Shota's worries that Viridian wouldn't be able to defend himself. He had added a belt to his costume, which held his tin can and a couple... sticks? Hopefully they were more durable than the ones he tried to use last time Shota had run into him. There was also a slingshot hanging from one of the loops, and Shota nodded in satisfaction. At least the kid had enough sense to cover his long-range defenses. He decided he'd watched long enough. He should get Viridian to give him an overview of the situation, since he'd most likely been the one to lead Amplifier to the fight in the first place. Does she need any help? Viridian yelped and clutched his notebook to his chest as he turned around with panic in his eyes. Shota snorted. Seriously, kid? I would think a vigilante would have more situational awareness. How do you manage to sniff out crimes as well as you do if you couldn't even tell what's behind you? Well, Eraserhead, sir, you are one of the most stealth-based heroes out there, and Amplifier's quirk is based on volume, so you probably used her quirk to cover your own approach, unless that's not what you were trying to do. But then again, I guess I was kind of distracted watching the fight and... Shota rolled his eyes as he went to the edge of the roof and looked down. Amplifier had stopped yelling and seemed to be comforting the victim as a group of thugs struggled weakly on the ground. You led her to this one? Viridian nodded frantically. The guys were drunk, and I didn't want them to hurt that girl because she was alone, and I really didn't like the way they were looking at her, and... Shota cut off the kid's rambling. Good work, kid. Viridian gave him a bright smile, like Shota had congratulated him on saving the world rather than just one girl, and practically started vibrating with excitement. Thank you, Eraserhead, sir. And like I said before, kid, it's just Eraser. Oh. Viridian's face fell, and Shota hoped he was imagining the glimmer of tears behind his goggles. I'm sorry, Eraser. It's not a big deal, kid. Seriously, he hadn't been expecting Viridian to be so emotional. What was up with the kid? He hadn't actually done anything wrong. Well, he hadn't, if Shota ignored the whole vigilante thing, but there was nothing actually wrong with calling him by his full hero name. So why had a simple correction been enough to move the kid to tears? Maybe he should change the subject. So, what were you writing? Viridian quickly hid the notebook in one of the pouches on his belt. Oh, nothing? Shota shot him an unimpressed look. Really, kid? If you're going to lie, at least come up with a better excuse. Let me see. It's really nothing. Shota raised one eyebrow. It's just... my note is silly and kinda embarrassing, Viridian finally muttered. It's just some thoughts on the fight so I can figure out what Amplifier was doing and maybe do something similar in the future. I mean, it's nothing special. I know it's kinda creepy. Shota raised an eyebrow at him. You're learning by example. That's smart. I wish my students had half that drive. Viridian's head snapped up, and he looked at Shota with wide eyes. You're a teacher? Shota snorted. Yeah, I expect brats at UA. Maybe if you actually stay off the streets, you could actually be in my class in a few years. Viridian looked at the ground and started fidgeting with the sleeves of his hoodie. Do you teach the hero course students? Yes. Shota looked at Viridian curiously. I teach the first years. Then I won't be in your class. Viridian shook his head. I can't be a hero. Why? Bye, Eraser. See you later. Viridian started scrambling down the fire escape, even though the roofs were close enough together that it would be easier for him to parkour away. Shota thought fast and wrapped his capture weapon around one of Viridian's wrists. He stopped and Shota could feel how hard he was trembling, just from the way his capture weapon moved. Good. Do you not know parkour? Parkour? Shota rolled his eyes. Yes, kid. Parkour. You know, running across rooftops without dying, it's pretty essential in this line of work. Viridian had started fidgeting with the sleeves again, as soon as Shota released the tension on his weapon. I don't know. I mean, I guess I've considered it, but I've never really learned, so no? Shota sighed. Follow me. He made his way down the fire escape, waving to Amplifier as they passed her, and was pleased when he saw that Viridian had actually started following him. He really should be working on finding leads, but it didn't look like anyone else was going to put in the work to make sure this kid didn't die. It didn't take them long to reach a skate park a few streets over. It was practically abandoned at this time of night, except for a few homeless people and drug dealers, but as long as they left each other alone, Shota wasn't going to worry about them. He turned around, forcing Viridian to stop quickly to avoid running into him. All right, first things first. You have to learn how to fall. I thought the point of parkour was to not fall. Shota gave him a deadpan glare. No, the point is to not get hurt when you fall. You're always going to fall, especially early on, and that's why you have to start small. He gestured to the park. Places like this are a good place to practice early on because you don't have that far to fall. Tonight, though, I'm just gonna teach you how to roll. You're going to teach me? Shota rolled his eyes. Yes, kid, I'm going to teach you. Where else would I have let you here? Viridian shrugged. Catch me? Shota sighed again. Not tonight, kid. Little known fact is that we are heroes, especially underground heroes like me, often prefer to work with vigilantes than against them. If you get overly violent or turn to villainy, that'll change pretty quickly. But for right now, we're good. Just don't tell the cops. They're a little more uptight about the whole thing. Alright, now like I said, you're always going to fall. Rolling is a good way to make sure that your momentum gets dissipated gradually so that it doesn't hurt your body. You don't get hurt by moving fast. You get hurt when you suddenly stop moving. That made Viridian chuckle, which Shota decided to count as a win, considering he'd made the kid cry earlier. We're not going to start from on top of a wall. You're not ready for that right now, but just watch me. Viridian cried out as Shota dove toward the ground, tugging his arm under him so that he rolled over his shoulder and landed back on his feet. That's a basic roll. Now let's go slow and I'll talk you through it. Shota spent the next hour coaching the kid in some of the basic movements of parkour and giving him some exercises that would give him a decent foundation. The kid was obviously unused to the movement, but he was a pretty fast learner, all things considered. Occasionally, Viridian would stop to adjust the tool on his belt so that the weight didn't get in his way, or he would take out his notebook and write something down before putting it away again. Shota couldn't help but be a little curious about it, even though the kid had told him it was nothing. You should take notes on villains too, Shota said, as Viridian reached for his notebook yet again after Shota had taught him a new movement. Taking notes on heroes is good, so you can learn what they do, but knowing what villains do is arguably more important. Viridian finished writing what he was going to and put the notebook back in his belt. But you don't fight repeat villains all the time, and everyone has unique quirks. Why does it matter how a particular villain fights? Think about it, kid. Shota sat down on one of the low walls and gestured for Viridian to sit next to him. Yeah, you might not ever come across that exact quirk again, but take Present Mic and Amplifier. Their quirks might not be identical, but they're similar enough that that works against one might work against another, Viridian said slowly. So the more I understand different villains' quirks, the more strategies I'll be prepared to fight with. Shota nodded. At least the problem child was quick on his feet. Not that Shota didn't already know that, considering that he'd won his first fight with literal garbage. You also get better at looking for weaknesses. Right now, because you're trying to emulate heroes, you're automatically looking for people's strengths, when what you really need to be focusing on is the weaknesses. Viridian had pulled his notebook back out and was apparently taking notes on everything Shota said. Now he really wished the kid was one of his students. Shota glanced at his watch and stood. You'd probably better get to bed, kid. Don't you have school tomorrow? Whatever eagerness Viridian had been showing only moments before disappeared as the kid seemed to shrink in on himself, almost like he was trying to make himself a smaller target. Why... Good night, Eraser. Thank you for your help. Sorry for bothering you. He almost stopped the kid from running off again, but by the time he realized Viridian was going to run, he was already around the corner. Damn, he knew the kid was fast, but seriously? He sighed and made his way back to the rooftops. He'd wasted some time, but he couldn't bring himself to regret it. After all, an extra set of boots on the ground couldn't hurt, right? That was Chapter 9 of Viridian, the Green Guide. I hope you enjoyed it. I do enjoy recording these things and uploading them for you. If you have any thoughts on what I should read next when I'm done with this, it's really long, so it's gonna be a while, post them down below, and have a good rest of your day, guys. Bye! Hello? Could you please... No.